Hi everyone, it's Anastasia from Matryoshka Tips channel. Let's talk about something that most people avoid: truth. Not just the truth we tell to others, but the truth we tell to ourselves or sometimes avoid entirely. This is rule number 8 from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. If you're not familiar with Peterson, he's a Canadian psychologist and professor whose work has resonated with millions of men around the world, and women as well, especially those who've been quietly carrying the weight of confusion, doubt, or disconnection from who they really are. And his book isn't a list of moral rules, it's a wake-up call. It's about facing the world as it is and facing yourself with honesty, not illusion. And this particular rule about truth sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest to actually live by, because lying doesn't always mean telling some dramatic story to deceive someone. It can be subtle. It can look like nodding when you disagree, smiling when you're breaking down, pretending to care when you're emotionally gone, saying you're fine when you're absolutely not. We've all done that at some point, but for men especially, you're often taught that this is how you survive. You learn to say what's expected. You learn to hold it in. You learn to protect others from discomfort, even if that means silencing your own truth. But over time, something happens. You start losing yourself, and even worse, you start building a life on top of a lie. And I say this gently but with full honesty. You can't build confidence, direction, or connection on something that isn't true. I've seen too many men crumble under the weight of lives they no longer recognize. They stayed in relationships they outgrew, they chased careers that looked impressive on paper but killed their soul. They smiled through situations where they should have walked away. And the thing is, it didn't happen overnight. It happened one small lie at a time. One avoided conversation, one fake yes, one moment of being agreeable when something inside them was screaming no. And that kind of life looks smooth on the outside, but inside, it's like trying to stand on quicksand, and eventually something breaks. You get angry or numb or lost, and you don't even know how you got there. That's why Peterson says, tell the truth, or at least don't lie, because sometimes you're not ready to speak the full truth, but you can at least stop actively feeding the lie. And that alone starts to clear space in your life. It gives your inner world room to breathe. You don't have to hide behind a mask every day. You don't have to keep pretending to be okay for the sake of appearances. You don't need to be dramatic about it. You just stop faking. You stop forcing yourself to say what others want to hear. You stop making yourself smaller just to keep everything looking neat on the surface. And when you do that, when you start even with little truths, something changes. Your voice feels stronger, your energy feels cleaner. You might not have everything figured out, but at least you're not at war with yourself. And I want to say this clearly. You don't have to be perfect to be respected, but you do have to be real. Truth has weight, but it also has power. A man who tells the truth calmly, clearly, without exaggeration, carries a kind of presence that you can't fake. People can feel it, and more importantly, you can feel it. You don't walk around afraid of being exposed or caught or corrected. You're not performing. You're just living in alignment. And yes, it takes courage. Some truths will cost you. You might lose people, you might disappoint others, but you will finally be at peace with the person in the mirror, and that's worth everything. You can have money, women, a great job, but if you're lying to keep it, you'll always be anxious, always second-guessing, always wondering if it will fall apart. Telling the truth doesn't mean everything becomes easy, but it does mean that everything becomes clear. You know what's real. You know where you stand, and from that place you can actually grow. So if you feel stuck or empty or like you're living someone else's life, ask yourself, where am I not being honest? Where am I pretending? Where am I keeping peace at the cost of my own voice? Start small. Say no when you mean no. Speak up when you need to. And when you can't say the full truth yet, at least don't speak something you know is false. That's the beginning of freedom. That's how you start to rebuild something real. Because truth, even painful truth, is the only foundation strong enough to carry the weight of your life. And you deserve that kind of peace, not the peace of comfort or approval, but the peace of living as the man you really are. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. That's where strength begins. That's it for today, guys. See you in the next one. If you really enjoyed my video, like it, To see more content like that, subscribe to my channel and also join my Patreon if you want to see some exclusive content that I share there, especially if you're interested in meeting or making meaningful relationships online with Eastern European women. Also, I give personal advices by chatting, so I'm here ready to help you. You're welcome. See you in the next one. Bye.